Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another weekend here for our endurance series, part of our Midwest esports. So tonight we got a little bit of a special treat here for you. We're coming to COTA here for our 7th of our 8th round here, and we've got a sprint weekend for you. So as you can see here, it's going to be a wet qualifying and a wet sprint as well, so drivers are going to have to take care. Coming into some of these corners are a little bit faster and a little bit slippery, and as well as a lot of curbs here you don't want to go too far into, as you will definitely be sliding out from there. But we got 14 drivers out here tonight, so pretty good turnout for the sprint weekend. So we're going to have full points for the feature race following the sprint, and then just a standard sprint format points. So that'll be 8 to first, and then that goes 8, 7, 6, 5, all the way down through the top 10, as you guys well know about. So we've got a short qualifying here as well. I'm not going to be doing the full qualifying for this one. But pulling up our driver standings here, we've got a pretty close battle still coming up at the top of the table. We've got me leading them out with 117 points there in the Mercedes. Followed there shortly behind by Lancey there on 106 points, and El Majacco on 105 points, followed by Screnzi on 71, and Slayer on 52, rounding out your top 5. Then looking over to our constructor standings, we got Williams still holding on a pretty solid lead over Mercedes, keeping it at 22 points at the moment, so pretty solid from them to maintain that lead. Hasn't really shifted too much out of Williams' hands, so most likely going to see them clinch the constructors here this weekend if they have a pretty good result. You can see some of these drivers are starting to come out onto the track now as well. It's going to be a bit slippery out there. Board with Lancey. Our last weekend he was able to win our race after we had quite a few technical difficulties. He managed to pull through after all that, won his first race of the season last week, and we got Pink Jones there in the other Alpine. It's one of our newer racers. We just had him last week for the first time, and he's making his second appearance there. Got Meeb, our championship leader, is still in the pits. So that's Gabri forward there in the Ferrari, making his outlap onto the full wet series. See a couple drivers looking to fit the intermediate tires, see how that works for them out there. But the rest of the field is going to be running on the full wet compound, and it looks very slickery out there for sure. Got Cynical making an appearance here for MMR there. We usually have a Slayerized racing with us, but he wasn't able to make it tonight, so we got Cynical stepping in for him. So special thanks there to Cynical. Great to see him trying out this 100% series, see what it's all about. We got Tin Man the Rowdy there in the Red Bull is still in the pits, as well as his teammates. Baba Yaga there. Baba Yaga's been one of our more consistent drivers all season. Majacco into the pits as well. Usually likes to wait a little bit till the track gets a little bit cleared up, and some of these guys set their first laps is when we'll see some of them coming out there. Got Josh SR5 and the other Ferrari there, so both Ferraris rocking out this weekend, so great to see both of them pulling out. Got A-Dub there, one of our star-studded racers there in the McLaren, making yet another performance here for us. See what he's able to pull out for us today. He's one of our faster drivers as well, so expect to see him pulling some stops out. And we got Villeneuve there in the Alpha Tauri there, just getting out of the way for some of that lap traffic. We got Get It to Win It there in the other McLaren. Seeing him back out, haven't seen him in quite a while, so it's great to see him back out driving here in the other McLaren there. See Gronk's on an invalidated lap there. Got Lancey and not Williams. See how he's handling this first sector. His turns can be pretty slippery, so he's doing pretty well to maintain it. Not much you can really do with these conditions, sliding around quite a bit, but it does set the fastest sector one time. So he seems to be able to make something work here. I imagine some of these drivers aren't going to have the best setups, maybe weren't prepared for a wet race here, but we'll see what everyone's able to do once qualifying's all done and dusted. Coming down on this back straight hairpin here, this is going to be one of the DRS straights in the dry. You're not going to see that DRS in the wet, but this is a key overtaking place either at the start of this, or during, or at the end. Coming into this braking zone is where we'll probably see a major bit of overtaking here today, as it will be one of the easier places to try to force your way up alongside and around. See forward there in the Ferrari, setting the fastest lap on the 151.246 there. See what anyone's able to do with that. Jones there with the 151.8. Got Lancey setting the fastest sector 2 as well, so imagine his lap is going to be up there towards the front end. People all know that Lancey's got pretty good pace here, so should be good. Lancey there with a 150.5 is the fastest lap there. And just what I imagine we'd see from him, about 7/10 faster than forward there in the Ferrari. I imagine we'll see some faster laps from me and Jack maybe a little bit towards the later stages of this session. See what some of these other guys are able to do here. The second Ferrari here coming around the final corner. See if he's able to get himself a complimentary lap time up close to his teammate, perhaps. Coming across the line now, and he's going to go fourth fastest with a 153.3 there. So he's a couple seconds off of his teammate there, but in these conditions, you know, anything can change over the course of a lap. So sometimes you may just have a little bit of a moment in one corner and could potentially ruin a good chunk of time from your lap. And just repetition is going to be your best ally here, and getting some solid laps in qualifying sessions like this. See, get it to win it there in the McLaren with a 155.637 on the intermediate tires. A-Dub's going to set the new fastest time with a 149.8. I told you to keep an eye on him. Pretty fast driver there. As you see, he goes 6/10 faster than anyone else has previously. See, Lancey there quickly undoes that though with a 149.2. See forward there now with the fastest sector 2 time. He's got himself in a pretty decent spot here on this lap. Nice little groove in between the traffic as well. And it's like I was saying about repetition as well. He's been on a couple of laps here. This is his second or third attempt at a lap. So as you can see, he's just got himself in a nice little groove, and you're able to find yourself a line and just consistently ride it. And he does improve his time, but he remains in P3 at the moment with 149.9 now. So just about a 10th off of A-Dub there ahead of him in the McLaren. So I got Jones there in the P4 on the intermediate tires. We're going to see how those are going to fare for him. Don't imagine the track's going to be offering a whole lot of grip to these intermediate tires until there's a little bit more water moved off. Maybe we'll see he's moving out of the way there for Meeb there in the Mercedes, who's making his out lap. He's our championship leader. So Ginnett also on the intermediate tires here. He's been running on these for a little bit. He's got himself a 153.6 as his fastest time so far. Not sure if he's struggling a little bit for pace or if these tires just don't have the traction. You see him locking up a little bit there coming in. Cuts the corner a little bit tight over the curve there. Hey, Borg, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out with us here. I'm riding on board with Ginnett here. I see him sliding around a little bit on these tires, maybe not offering up the most traction in this situation. So we'll see. We got quite a few drivers moving on to him now, so maybe the track's going to be drying up here a little bit is what they're thinking. We'll see how it kind of goes. Getting it there, able to improve on his time with up to a 151.6 there. So it's pretty solid lap from him and got him up into the top 5. So solid result from him there. Got Cynical here on the full wets. He's up just a few tenths on his at the fastest Sector 1 time. Got a Red Bull up ahead of him. So he's hoping to maybe see that Red Bull disappear into the distance or get out of his way here. I'm sure we got to see it. Most drivers are going to be out on track now. Just got about 3 or 4 in the pits at the moment. So any of the water that's on the track is going to be getting moved off there a lot faster than we were seeing in the earlier parts. Cynical here, getting a nice little bit of rotation there. Slows down just enough. Doesn't want to overdo it there. You can easily lock up your brakes and run wide there. If you brake just a little bit too late, you can really throw off your whole corner. Gets a nice rotation through here. Patient on his throttle acceleration. See, most of these drivers out on track are going to be in a line trying to get into the slipstream of each other for getting a little bit of improvement there. As you see Cynical having a little bit of a moment as that Red Bull there up in front of him spins out of the way as well. Cynical currently sitting P4 with a 151.5. He is going to be seeing a little bit of improvement on that lap, I believe. He's coming across the line now. He gets a 150.868. Doesn't see himself improve, but he does improve his lap, but not improve his position there. So solid to see him running for the first time in his 100% career, running in the top 5 at the moment in qualifying. You got Ginnett there in P6 in the McLaren coming into the pits as well. Got Rowdy in the pits as well. A couple of these guys are going to be starting their laps here. Some are on invalidated laps as well. See how the Alpine pairing of Jones and Gronk here are going to be pairing. This is our second time seeing these guys out. I had a couple moments from them in the first one, but pretty solid racers and definitely have a good bit of pace to show off, especially in that midfield fight. So you're going to see Jones there invalidating his lap there. He did run a little bit wide there. And to see his teammate, the Gronk, though, slide on through, and he is still on a valid lap. Right on board with him and see what he's going to perform for us today. Gronk there with a little bit of a lockup. Does well to get his tires rotating again. They don't want to really flat spot your tires, especially these intermediates. It's going to take a lot of pace out of your tires very quickly. You see Gronk get a little bit wide there, but has a good quick recovery there. Just 3 minutes left in qualifying here. So these drivers are going to be wanting to put in their best now. It's about when everyone's going to be wanting coming out onto the track to start their final flyers. See Lancey with a 147.488 in the Williams is going to be our new fastest lap time there. He got himself a nice 2.1 second lead there to El Majacco, who's currently sitting P2 with a 149.5. El Majacco returning into the pits there. A-Dub though going to be with a 148.5. Is going to be just a hair ahead of him. Forward here in the Ferrari, currently sitting P5 with 149.9. See what he's able to do. He's going to be able to improve on his lap here. So you are seeing the rain has let up quite a bit there, and the track has dried out a lot. So these intermediate tires have definitely come into play very nicely for these drivers. Those wet tires do a good job of moving a lot of water, especially as the rain starts slowing down and you got 14 drivers out there. It doesn't take too long to clear that off, as we're going to see Ford set the fastest Sector 2 time there, so great result from him so far on this lap. come through this sweeping winder here. You just want to have just a little bit of throttle, but it's very easy to get too much down too early. It can just send you into a nasty spin, and it's going to be really hard to recover out of, but don't see that yet from forward. 147.925 there, so brilliant lap from him. He's up 2 laps on his previous lap time there. That's going to put him P2 at the moment, and he's going to have himself a nice gap to P3 with a 148.5, forward with a 147.9 there. Lancey and Ford the only two in the to break into the 147 so far. Lancey now into the 146s with a 146.8, so going a second faster than that. Yes, Villeneuve, it's gonna be a pretty long night here, but I'm here with you guys all the way through it. So got my raised energy here, keeping me company as well. So should be in for a good night. There's 50 seconds left in qualifying here. We've got 13 of our 14 drivers still out on track. Villeneuve, first retirement, just happy with his 154.8 there. So we're going to see everybody else out on the track at the moment on flying laps as well. So these will be some of the last laps you'll see. Maybe a couple of these guys will have time for one more depending on where they cross the line. We're going to see Ford is up by 6/10 on his lap. See, these top 3 drivers have been pretty consistent with each other. Lancey's been about a second ahead of whoever's been sitting P2, but second and third are just a neck and neck right now. So we'll see what Ford's able to do here as he comes across the line. He's currently bumped down to P4 as Meeb sets a 147.3. It's going to be there, right up there in the mix, but getting to win it with a 146.9 there as we cross the line. Ford goes across with a 147.1 to give himself P3 for the moment. Going to be the first one crossing it, the fastest sector 3 time there. So we'll see what everyone's able to do, if that was enough to keep him up there in the top fight, or if we're going to see major improvements from the rest. We saw some of these drivers came up with a stonking laps there at the end, getting it to win it, moved himself up into the top there. Lancey with a 146.1 there to claim himself another fastest lap sitting on top there. Got himself a 7/10 of a second gap there. We're going to see Josh SR5 cross the line P6 for the moment in that Ferrari. See the McLaren there of A-Dub 146.4 there comes across the line. Bobby Yaga there in the second Red Bull there with a 149.5. It's going to be his fastest lap for us. Got Jones there with a 148, going to slot himself into the P6 slot at the moment. Meeb is down to 5th spot at the moment. We saw him jump up there into the top 3. He's on a faster lap, and he's got quite a bit of traffic here in front of him impeding his lap, so that's going to be not what he's going to want to see on his final flying lap attempt there. He was up a good bit. Elman Jacko's going to set a 146.039 though to claim the fastest lap of the moment. That's almost a 10th clear of Lancey there in P2. So with Meeb here having quite a bit of traffic to deal with, I'm not sure we're going to see a huge improvement on his lap. We'll see as he comes across the line now. That's going to put him P3 at the moment. There you're going to see your standings there as you got Elma Jacko is going to claim pole, I believe, unless we just saw someone else claim it there in the end. See, Meeb crosses the line 4th. Getting to win it with the last second, claims pole position in the McLaren there. So that was an impressive lap from him. I wasn't riding on board with that, but I did see him sneak across there. So you're going to see getting to win in the top spot, Elman Jacko claiming P2 in the Aston Martin with 146.0. Lancey in P3 for the Williams pairing. And we're going to see Meeb in P4, championship leader. So he's going to be starting a little bit on the back foot, but if you know Meeb, then you know he's going to be coming up through pretty quickly as he does. He has a pretty dominant race pace. And then you can see A-Dub there and the other McLaren in the top 5. Forward there in P6 in the Ferraris, followed by MMR Cynical there in the Alfa Romeo. MMR making their weekly appearance here in our endurance series as well. So we're moving to our sprint race here, and the sprint race is going to set the grid for our feature race to follow this. So some of these drivers are going to want to move forward, and if you fall back, you gonna have a little bit of time to work your way back through. You're gonna have 19 laps here, so anything can really happen in the sprint. You can really capitalize a lot on this, or you can lose out pretty harshly here, as we are gonna have a wet sprint as well. So this is going to make for a pretty interesting set here, as we got these drivers just going in and setting up their pit strategies now. See there, we got 15 seconds until we're going to our formation lap here. All these drivers have got their setups and final adjustments. If they wanted to make tire pressure or front wing changes, they could do that from there and get their pit strategies all set as well for this sprint race. So we're going to have 19 laps of the sprint here at the Circuit of the Americas over in Austin, Texas, and then we're going to go to 50 laps of the feature race to follow. See everyone starting off on their formation laps now. It's going to be a little bit of a wet race here, so drivers are going to want to be extra cautious coming into turn one. It's going to be a little bit messy, to say the least. So you can see there, everybody's going to be running that intermediate tire. We won't be seeing any pit stops usually, unless we got anyone needing to come in for a new wing. Excuse me. So yeah, these drivers are just going to be driving fast as they can, flat out. First one across the finish line wins. We got top 10 drivers are going to be getting points here. You can see a predicted pit strategy there if anybody's going to be pitting. I'll be on lap 9. You can see there, yeah, we got 14 drivers out here today. Nobody's needing to be pitting, but these wet conditions combined with some of these corners means we might be needing some new front wings. See all these drivers now coming into the final sector. This is where you want to be making sure that you got your tires as warm as you can get them. You're going to want them to be nice and toasty for the start of this race. You're going to be sitting on the grid a little bit. Some of these front guys waiting for the rest of the field to catch up. So you want to make sure your tires have a good bit of temperature in them, as you're going to need every bit of traction getting away, especially on these wet starts. coming into turn one is going to be a little bit interesting for some of these guys, I believe, as well. Because coming up this hill, it's pretty easy to lock up, especially in the wet. And if you just have a little bit too much momentum, it can really throw off your corner. But we'll see how everybody's able to manage it coming through here. See, you've got 4 lights, 5 lights. So lights out and off they go, and you can see there everyone's starting to get away. No one having too great of a start. We'll see the second Alpine car there making up moves there, but Get It to Win is able to keep himself up there into the front. Lancey making a move right away on Alma Jacko, gets up and right alongside of him as well. And to see these guys kind of coming together a good little bit there, but we make it over the top of the hill and nobody has any major contact there. You guys were getting pretty close, but I think we kept it all nice and clean there. And to see Gronk up 5 spots from the start there, and a good result from him. Baba Yaga down 2, as well as Cynical lost out 2 positions there on the front. We're going to be riding on board with the front. These guys here just kind of falling into their rhythms, seeing what they can do for each other, where they're going to be making their moves, who's struggling where. We got Meeb getting pretty close to Alma Jacko there on the start. We got Gronk just a little bit behind them, coming in to see what he can do, pick off any of the pieces of these guys falling too far behind. See DeGabry there with a little bit of a spin, I believe. We see him quite a ways back from the rest of the pack there. Right on board here with Lancey and Ginnett, pretty close to each other on track. Just Lancey riding out in the spray of that McLaren there in front of him, looking to get a nice different angle there on that corner, and it does works out pretty well for him. Gets himself right up close, but he doesn't really have anywhere to go with that move. So we're going to see what he's able to do coming into some of these braking zones. Maybe a better spot to make something happen. It's a little bit loose there as he goes onto the curb a little bit, and they're going to see him get loose again there, but he does a really good job to regain control of that as Alma Jacko slides up the outside of him. They do well to not make contact there as Get It to Win it sets the fastest lap. So Lancey there with a little bit of a spin, but he did a good job to get control of that, and he's lost out about 1.5 seconds there to get it up ahead of him, and that's put him right where Alma Jacko is going to be able to strike and pounce on that. But Jacko's got Meeb just behind him, so he's going to be following each other through this sector here. You see Meeb get a little bit too much curb there and gets a little loose there, but regains control quickly as well. And these curbs, especially when they're wet, you don't want to grab too much because it is very easy to just kind of lose the car, and before you really know what's happening, you're off. See A-Dub there getting nice and close to Gronk there. See A-Dub is able to get nice and close up to the back here, but he's not able to make anything happen. All these guys are still relatively close to each other. No one's able to really pull out too big of a gap there yet. Get It to Win it there with another fastest lap of the race. You got Alma Jacko just a little bit behind Lancey there, as well as Meeb just following him behind. Baba Yaga's able to make a move up on Villeneuve there. You're going to see Gronk switch to the inside early there. A-Dub tries to make something happen. Slides it up the inside instead with the old switcheroo. See if it's able to work for him. He doesn't quite have the traction to hold that position alongside of him. But Gronk goes a little bit wide there, and then A-Dub thinks about it, but realizes he doesn't have quite the grip he wants to be able to ride side by side through here, and rightly backs out of it. He's sprint race sure only has 19 laps. We're going to see 50 in the feature race, and you don't really want to be starting at the back for that. You want to be able to hold your position and only move your way forward. Maybe coming down in this corner, see if he's able to make a move. He thinks about doing it, but sticks in on the racing line and just follows him through this one again. See if he's able to do anything down this back straight here, as he's got forward not too far behind him, closing down that gap rapidly, and we're going to see it to Gabri there in the sector 2 there with the yellow flags. He's able to get his car moving again. Gabri not having the best race so far, down there in 14th position. Getting to win a leader out in front has got himself a 1.8 second gap there, as Lancey's pulled himself out about a second gap on Jacko since we last checked in on them. And Meeb is starting to be falling back just a little bit as well, as you can see them just up ahead, a couple corners ahead of these two drivers here, fighting over P5 at the moment. Getting to win and just pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap. So you've seen those top 4 drivers kind of been in the caliber league of their own this season, starting to pull away a little bit. We got some of these guys. We got A-Dub here. We know he's got a lot more pace. He's just kind of stuck behind Gronk at the moment. Not really much he can work with as far as getting around him, as every time he's close enough, he just isn't able to get his way around. But I'm sure he's able to make something happen. But forward's riding in very closely, and it's just waiting for someone to make a mistake, or maybe he's going to be thinking about popping a move on A-Dub here shortly. See there, he's burning off a little bit of his overtake, trying to get himself up nice and close there. It's going to push A-Dub all the way down to the inside, moving up over to the top of the track here. It's going to come down to the braking zone. Who's got the later brakes and the better traction? You're going to see side by side through the corner. Great racing by these two, not making any contact. As you're going to see, forward in the end wins out there on A-Dub. It's a beautiful move there by forward to pull that one off there. So you're going to see A-Dub switching over and makes that move happen again. We're going to see forwards looking up back on the inside. He's able to regain his position. There's some great racing between the two of these guys right here, right now. So, really love watching these guys get some nice clean battles in here. This is what we really love to see, especially in these long races. So, you always got time, and there's lots of opportunities, so you got to stay on your wits 100% during these races. You see Lancey there at 1:44 as the new fastest lap time. See Ford slides himself up into P6, getting ahead of A-Dub. See what Ford's able to do against Gronk there. He's just about half a second up ahead of him. Skinnerton has got himself a 3-second time penalty to work with for track violations. So that's going to be a little bit interesting, as we're going to see how that's going to affect the rest of this race now, as we got Lancey's just 1.5 seconds behind him, not even. So at the moment, if things finish where they are, Elma Jacko is teetering right on the edge of finishing ahead of Guinnett with that 3-second penalty that's going to be coming his way. So Guinnett's really going to be wanting to put into high gear now and try to pull out as much of a gap as he can on the rest of these drivers. See if he can't force them to push too hard and make a little bit of an error, perhaps. Samib is just about half a second off of Jacko there, not really able to do too much there, but he's just staying as close as he can. And then got Gronk is about 5 seconds back on them now. So Gronk's just going to be off on his own, fighting off forward here, who's getting nice and close. Forward has a little bit of a moment there, but regains car control quickly. So that's going to lose forward a little bit of time, and that's going to throw him right back down towards A-Dub, who's just on his tail. See Memes coming up around this first corner here. He's got himself up around 2-3 tenths of Jacko ahead of him. Not able to get around him though. It's gonna catching somebody is one thing and passing is another, as a wise man once said. taking extra care through here. You don't want to be too aggressive on the throttle. You can see here he's just kind of coasting his way around, giving the throttle just enough when he needs it, not taking too much out of the tires, trying to demand too much of the car in terms of grip either. See A-Dub makes a move onto forward there as well. So we'll see if forward's able to get anything done there as Mead makes a move on Jacko. They're riding side by side, coming down into this corner here. See who has to yield or if they're able just to continue this there. Jacko's got the upper hand, it looks like, as they're coming in though. They're just kind of battling side by side depending on which way the corner goes, who's in the lead there. But Mead ultimately in the lead now. He's got himself a full car's length ahead of him. So great there to see those two keeping it clean there. As Tin Man the Rowdy has got himself a 3-second penalty for track violations as well. He's currently sitting down in 11th, and he would lose out just one position there with that penalty at the moment if he's not able to pull out a bigger gap on Baba Yaga there behind him. See, Meeb now's got himself about a second's gap up on Jacka at the moment, as he is quickly cutting down that gap to Lancey up ahead in P2. So we'll see what kind of pace Meeb's got for the remainder of this race. We're on lap 7 of 19 now, so just about to the halfway point for some of these drivers. We're going to see a yellow flag in sector 3, and that is going to be DeGabry once again with a little bit of a spin there. Some of these corners are pretty treacherous, especially in conditions like this. It's not too hard to lose a little bit of traction and just spin around. See Gronk there following up on A-Dub there. As we got forward down currently in P7 at the moment. And the other Ferrari, he's the lead Ferrari tonight. So his teammate Josh SR5 is down in P10 at the moment. He's kind of running off on his own race. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to get into a little bit of a groove and work your rhythm there, but Josh SR5 is pretty heavily under attack of the Red Bulls there behind him. So we'll see what he's able to do in defense against that. See yellow flag in sector 2 there once again from DeGabry. See Ford's able to close down that gap massively on Gronk there ahead of him. See if he's able to make anything coming out of this corner here. If he's able to get good traction, he'll be able to pull up alongside, maybe be a little bit late on the brakes, but he's just going to have to bide his time and wait. Maybe he moves himself car over thinking about making a move. Wisely backs out of it, as that would have been a bit of a far-fetched dive bomb there. You see Jones Drew there with the 3-second time penalty for track violations as well. So you're seeing more and more of these penalties coming across the board. And these are going to be dramatically changing the race outcomes, as we've seen in the past here. If you get enough of these penalties, you've seen someone as far down as 5th or 6th be fighting for a race win just on penalties alone. See Ford gets up really pretty close to Gronk there, almost able to go alongside, but wasn't able to. Ford's got himself about a 1.3 second gap to the other Alpine behind him, so caught right in the middle of this sandwich here. He's wanting to see what he's able to do here as he slides up around the outside. Gronk isn't making it easy, but Ford sticks with it. See what he's able to do coming up. He would have the inside line here, but he backs out of that move there. So that's going to see Gronk go a little bit wide there, but Gronk's able to stay ahead. As you see him coming in now, we'll see what he's able to do there as he's just behind him as well. He's getting it to win it with the new fastest lap there in the McLaren. He's going to see Ford come up alongside and get himself right up ahead there of that other Alpine there. So brilliant move there from Ford, making that work through that Sector 3 is treacherous section there. Some of those corners, they always catch me off guard with where you gotta brake all of the time. So degrab you there with a 3-second time penalty for violations as well. So we'll pull up that penalty. So we'll see 4 penalties across the board there for these guys. Got Get into it there with a 3-second time penalty. He's got himself about a 2.4, 2.5 second lead there over Lancey. So doing well to manage his penalty. If he can pull out that gap just a little bit more, that'd work out well for him. You got Jones Drew there and P8 with one as well. And almost the same situation for him, pulling off 3 seconds on Cynical there in P9. Got Tin Man Rowdy there. He's got himself a 3-second penalty. Would only be losing out to his teammate, so not the end of the world in terms of their Constructors Championship hopes there. See, the first time we got 2 Red Bulls out on track in a long time, so brilliant stuff from them there. No stops from anybody across the board either. See, these drivers are starting to all kind of spread out there. We got the Alpine duo there is going to be our closest pairing on track at the moment. We're not going to be seeing those guys fighting too much, probably just wanting to mitigate their points income this weekend and see what they're able to do for us. It's been a pretty smooth and solid race for us so far here in this sprint. We're on to lap 10 now of 19. So this driver is going to be coming down to the final bits of the sprint part of this weekend. So nothing too crazy. Sometimes we'll see crazy starts and see drivers skyrocket up the order or fall massively down. But most of these guys did a great job to kind of mitigate so far, and just got, like I said, 9 laps left. So anything can happen in those 9 laps. But I imagine as everyone is kind of spaced out as they are right now, we're going to see these positions kind of starting to fall where they may. Get into it though, still needing to pull out a little bit of a gap there on Lancey there in the Williams. Not able to do so far. Got Meeb is about 6 seconds off of Lancey, so he was able to pull away from Jacko by a little bit there, but not able to really close down that gap at all to the leaders up front, as Lancey has been pushing though to stay within that 3-second gap there of Get to win it. So brilliant stuff from him to see, as he's coming off the high of a win from last weekend as well, so you know he's wanting to keep that momentum going as long as he can. So Get to win it there with a 3-second penalty. So that is not going to be what he's going to want to be seeing for his race, is he's going to be on to 6 seconds of penalties now. So that will demote him most definitely down to P2. You're going to see Lancey now within that 1.8 second gap window. So nothing he's needing to really worry about now other than just keeping calm and consistent. He's got me about 6 seconds back, so not a whole lot of pressure that he's on. Just kind of put in consistent cornering after cornering and just maintain that momentum as he's been doing all race so far. So as it sits, you got that McLaren in the front, but he will be dropping down to P2 unless he's able to massively pull out some gains here on Lancey. And then Lancey there in that Williams, as you can see, just cruising along there, keeping Get to win it just in his radar there. And followed by Meeb in the Mercedes, Elma Jacko there in the Aston Martin, sitting P4 at the moment. A-Dub there in the other McLaren is P5, so going to be a good result here in this sprint format for the McLaren team. Got both their drivers in the top 5, and then we got forward there in P6 down below, just ahead of Gronk and Jones there in the Alpines. MMR Cynical is standing in for MMR Slayerized in the Alfa Romeo. Then you got the other Ferrari there of Josh SR5 round out your top 10. You can see there as DeGabri's just starting to cross that start-finish line as these top 2 drivers are coming across the finish line. So he may May see a little bit of lap traffic come into play, but we're going to see Lancey with a little bit of a mistake there. Goes a little bit wide coming out of that corner, but he does well to hold on to it there and doesn't really lose too much time. We're going to see a yellow flag in sector 3, and that's going to be a forward with a spin there. So not like what he'd like to see from his race. We're going to see quite a few drivers move up the field from that forward run from 6th down to 9th there, as he had to let a couple drivers go through there before he could join onto the track clean and clear. So it's unfortunate for forward, but the Alpine pairing is going to be the ones to massively impact from that. We're going to see Meeb get himself a 3-second time penalty as well there. And he's got about a 3.3 second gap to El Majaco behind him. So El Majaco is definitely going to be probably burning off what ERS he has, trying to get that gap down to within 3 seconds if he's able to. See Phoebe Jones there with a 3-second time penalty as well in the Alpine, so that's going to see him drop down quite a few spots there. Currently riding at P7, so we'll see how that's going to go for him towards the end of this race. We're on lap 12 of 19 now, so not a whole lot of time left for these guys to really make much happen with their race. These who have penalties are going to be doing everything they can to mitigate them. See Tin Man Rowdy there is just about 9/10 back on Josh SR5, so he does have a 3-second penalty and will be falling back the order, but he is able to stay close to Josh SR5 there. Maybe going to be an indication of the battles that are going to be coming in the feature race here, just over a lot longer of a duration. Meeb is still able to hold out that 3.89 second gap on El Majaco there, and that's going to be very crucial to holding on to his P3 podium position. If he falls in that 3-second window there, that penalty is going to promote him down to P4. El Majaco is going to be wanting to capitalize on that as much as he can. As the finishing positions for this sprint race are going to set the starting grid for the feature race. So we saw a little bit of shifting around in the midfield. We're going to see a DNF there from Jones, unfortunately. So not sure what we see there. Yeah, he's just must have lost it there into the wall, and that is going to be a safety car as well. So that could be very, very interesting for these drivers. Anybody with a penalty isn't going to be too happy about that. El Majaco is going to be looking to capitalize as we're on lap 13 of 19 here, so we're only going to have a few laps of green flag running here at the very end. So anyone on a penalty is going to be wanting to extend as much as they can. That's going to be a full safety car for us, as well as we see that little yellow dot down there on the map indicator of that. So forward there, who just previously had a spin, is going to be pretty happy with how that's gone. This has gone for him. Maybe able to capitalize a little bit and gain a couple positions back up on the end if he's able to pick up people off as they get going under after the safety car ends. We're going to be seeing a couple of these drivers into the pits as well. This goes Ginnett, and we saw, I believe, what else do we see down there in the pits? Coming out of the pits there, at least one in fresher tires there. Ginnett, to win it with those 6 seconds, was going to lose out that position there, so maybe thinking with those fresher tires, he's going to have a pretty solid chance of regaining that lead. You see Baba Yaga and De Gabri into the pits as well. So on to lap 14 now, just one lap under the safety car as this field has already started to bunch up massively. He's got a couple drivers a little bit farther back on the field, but as they're going to be coming in, I imagine it won't be too much longer before we get this safety car over with and back to green runnings. We've got just going to be a few laps left. It's going to make for a pretty interesting final showdown here. See how Majako there on a little bit wide, looking like he had this seed position there or something. Not sure what that was about there. I see just a couple of drivers there sitting a little bit farther back there, and we are going to be going around once more. So we're just slowly ticking away there at the laps here, and these drivers in the front are going to be getting pretty antsy, wanting to bolt off the line as they can. Lancey's going to want to make sure he's not going to let Meeb get ahead and get himself a gap built up before the race ends. As he get it to win it, is going to be doing everything in his power to stay ahead as well. Majako's going to want to try to follow these guys through and just hope to either make some overtakes or just wait towards the end, stay within that 3-second gap of Meeb there, and he'd have himself a P2 finish. So I got Gronk here, our single Alpine remaining, running P6 at the moment. Him and his teammate running 6th and 7th there for quite a while before Jones unfortunately had that DNF, which has caused this safety car, and then followed there by Cynical and the other Alfa Romeo. It's a pretty solid midfield result from him this weekend. It's going to be his first time out here, and so shout out to him for coming in, jumping into a sprint weekend as well. So going to be another 25% race on top of the feature race for him to deal with today. So we'll see how he's feeling towards the end of the night. Got the Ferraris here running 8 and 9 there, so not too bad from them. Forward had a spin, so we'll see if he's able to recover from that. Was previously running a little bit further up. You got Red Bull down there and Rowdy, followed by the Alpha Tauri of Villeneuve there. And then the other Red Bull of Bauyag behind them, and DGAB bringing up the rear. So coming down this back straight here once again, on board with Lancey here in the Williams, winner of last week's race. So we'll see if he's able to pull out another win here in the sprint. We got Meeb just hot on his heels though, as the safety car is going to be coming in this lap. Meeb is currently leading the championship by about 30 points there. So good results from him all season long have allowed him to stay up at the top, and he's just been a dominant driver. Lancey and Jacko have been able to challenge him quite a bit, and they've had some pretty fun races throughout this 8-week season. But as we're getting ready to go here, these guys are going to be warming up their tires the last little bit. You can see Lancey working that wheel back and forth, trying to get as much tire temp as he can into those, as the safety car is going to be going around the track there, going into the pits, before the game's going to be letting them get going again. See all of these guys coming down through the corners. So far with only one DNF, it's been a pretty solid race here as you're getting ready to go green again. Lancey's got himself a nice lead there, coming up into this first corner. See a little bit of some contact a little bit farther back on the field there. The front few runners are getting away well though. Cynical was able to make a move up onto Josh SR5 there in the splitting those Ferraris. Got Meeb just running about half a second there behind Lancey as well. He's going to have that 3-second gap. He gets very close to running into the back of him there, but able to keep his car under control, and they just are able to narrowly avoid that contact there. Forward's got Cynical hot on his heels, just 1.3 off at the moment, but anything can change, especially coming down some of these straights. Going to see Meeb moving over, looking like he thought about making a move or dummy in there. goes high up on the outside there, not able to get much rotation from his car. Is able to gonna be losing out a good bit of time, as you see there on the timing screen there. Ginnett's winning is just about a second behind him. Ginnett's on about 6 seconds worth of penalties though, so that's not going to be working out in his favor coming to the later stage. Once after the race cross the line for the finish time, penalties will be placed, and we're going to see a little bit of shifting around, especially with everyone coming back from this safety car. It definitely changed the outcome of this race a little bit, but that's the nature of racing. We're going to see Ginnett to win it with a 143.9. Going to be that fastest lap, so claiming that extra point there if he's able to hold on to that on the end here. As we're on lap 17 of 19 now for this sprint race. Ford's able to ride nice close there to Gronk. See him getting within 10th or 2 on the straightaways. It's going to be Ginnett to win it with a DNF though. To see him off on the wall there in sector 2, so that is massively unfortunate there for him and for the McLaren camp. They're just going to have one driver left, but Ford's getting up nice and close there. So it'll be our second DNF of the night, goes to Ginnett to win it there. Unfortunate for him. That's going to promote A-Dub up a place as well in the McLaren. So you see our podium currently making up of Lancey, Meeb, and El Majacco at the moment. See Ford thinking about making a move here down the back, but makes better of it. Gets up very nice and close to that rear wheel there of Gronk ahead of him. Meeb's gotten up very close there to Lancey there ahead of him. Just about 2/10 back now as we're coming on to lap 18 of 19. So just 2 laps left here to go. And I don't think at this point we're going to see Meeb able to make too much happen there, as DeGabri's going to have a little bit of another moment there in sector 3, bringing out the yellow flags down there. DeGabri has not been having a good race here tonight. He's had quite a few spins, so unfortunate to see for him. We'll see if he's able to bounce back in this feature race though. It's kind of the nice thing about this. Gronk has got himself a 3-second penalty for track violations now though. So it's going to be music to Ford's ears as he's right on his heels, so that will promote Ford up the field just a little bit. Cynical maybe even able to benefit from that as well. See Meeb getting very close, wanting to make a move there, but just not having the confidence under his braking maybe to really stick there and make that move clean. But these two have been riding pretty close to each other since we've seen the start of this safety car restart. So Meeb is on the fastest sector 2 time so far as well. See Meeb gets a little bit of a oversteer there, snappy moment there, but regains control of the car quickly. You're going to see him falling back just a little bit, not able to really do too much against Lancey when you're sliding around. So able to regain control of his car, but loses out a little bit of time. See if he's able to close down that gap, as he's currently got El Majacco and A-Dub closing in rapidly behind him. You're going to see Baba Yaga make a move up on Villeneuve as well. Able to slip around that Alpha Tower, so great work from Baba Yaga there. See Ford's able to keep himself within a second gap there of Gronk, and that's going to be great for him allowing him to close down that gap massively. Cynical's fallen back a little bit from forward there in the Alfa Romeo, respectively. And Josh SR5 is now just a little bit behind Cynical there as we are on our final lap now. So Lancey's leading them away. Since his restart, we've seen these guys stay pretty close to each other. No one's really stretched out too far away from the rest of the pack. Just what I imagined we'd see, as we see DeGabry had a couple little incidents there in the corners, one little spin, so that's why he's a little bit farther back on the track now. Hopefully see him improving during the feature race though. Looking like the rain is starting to pick up just a little bit again now that we're coming towards the end here, but it's no matter to these guys as we are just finishing up at the moment here. We've got Lancey crossing the line there to win. Mead with the faster lap of 143.5 at the last second claims that, but Mead due to penalties is going to see himself drop down to P4. So currently you're going to see Lancey win the race. Jacko crosses and finishes P2, and A-Dub is going to take the final slot on that podium after penalties, followed by Mead in P4. Ford is going to be bringing it home in P5. Gronk there in P6 for one of the Alpine boys, and they got Cynical with his first time out, finishing P7 in this sprint race. Josh SR5 and the other Ferrari crossing line 8th. Baba Yaga and Tin Man in the Red Bulls bring out 9 and 10 spot, followed by Villeneuve and DeGabry bring out the final finisher spots. We saw a couple of DNFs there as well. Those drivers will be starting in the feature race, but they will be starting from the back of the grid as well. So a pretty solid race from these guys. We see A-Dub there as claiming driver of the day, as he rightly deserves it. Love watching that guy race. So you can see again the points there for those top 8 drivers. So Red Bull won't be taking any points away in the constructors there from this sprint race, but they're going to have every chance to do so in the feature races. We will have points for all the finishing positions in that. So that's why it's really important to just show up to these races, because you can have just even a bad weekend is going to allow you to maybe finish like 7th, 8th, and 9th, still bringing in points. And then if you can show up every week and be consistent like that, you're going to be in for pretty solid results towards the end of the season, as which we'll see, we've been seeing from some of our teams here as well. See, coming into the feature race here, it is going to be a dry session. So some of these guys maybe going with a little bit different setups and strategies as well for how they're going to be handling some of these corners, as well as their fuel loads and all of that jazz. So we'll give them a couple minutes to get all that going there. Alright everybody, well, we should be getting ready to go here again very shortly. Just allowing these guys a little bit of a break in. They've got all their setups and such finally finalized. So we're going to have about 51 or 57 laps here for you today at COTA. So you saw he had 19 laps there in the sprint and it was a wet session. Nobody was really able to move around too much there. We saw a little bit of a jumbling around of the top 4 drivers there. Saw DNF there from Ginnett, so that's going to promote him down to the back of the field. So he's going to have a bit to work with if he wants to get back up to the front of the grid. He was starting a sprint on pole position. So unfortunate saw him DNF at the very end there, but he's going to have quite a bit of time to work that back. So anybody who's been tuning in throughout this whole evening so far, I'd love to hear your predictions in the chat. See who you guys think is going to be coming across the front here. I think we're going to be having a pretty solid mix of drivers here. We got a pretty solid fight in the top 5 up at the front, and got a bit of the midfield pack is pretty well condensed as well. So it should be an interesting race here. You can see the timer. We just got 20 seconds before we go green here for the formation lap. Good evening there, Baba Yaga. Great job to you as well. It is my pleasure. See what you guys over in the Red Bull camp have for us this evening. I'm gonna keep my eyes on you guys. You guys got this. Should be a fun race here for y'all. If said race would get underway. And bear with us for just a moment. We seem to be having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Yes, Codemasters loves to make it a little bit eventful for us, but we are luckily able to get going there without any issues. And this is with you can see the predicted 3-stop strategy there. You can see the soft runners. Maybe we'll see a little bit of mix there. You saw a lap around 10 laps on those softs, so we can imagine about 15 to 18 there for the mediums and about 25-35 for those hards, I would imagine. So you can see there El Majaco already has the hard tires fitted there. Pull up these on everybody else there. You can see the pit strategy again there. Yeah, about 16 laps on those medium tires. See a pretty solid mix there. Lancey right out in front there on the medium tires. El Majaco there on a different strategy on the hards. Then A-Dub on the soft strategy. So interesting there from the top three runners, all on different strategies. So we'll see how that kind of plays throughout the first little bit of this race, and we'll see how those strategies are going to be reflecting towards the end of the race as well. We got Meep sitting in P4 looking to make a comeback after he had a penalty there in the sprint race that demoted him down a couple of places there. He's starting on the medium compound tire, followed by Ford there in the Ferrari on the hard. Solid results from Ford through that sprint race. Saw him moving up towards the field there. He had a spin there at the end, but was able to bring it back home and get there up into the fifth. Got Gronk there in the Alpine, finished sixth there running on the soft tires, followed by Cynical there on the hard tire. Josh SR5 and the other Ferrari there behind him, lining up on the hard soft tire as well. Bobby Yaga there in the Red Bull on the hard, while his teammate in the other is on the medium strategy off the start. And we got Villeneuve, Gabri, and Ginnett Twinnet all running hard there. Ginnett Twinnet was sitting on pole, had a late DNF, unfortunate from him. And then you see Jones Drew there in the other Alpine starting on those soft tires. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights are going to be coming on here. See these guys getting away now. I see a poor start from El Majaco there on the hard tire. He's going to be quickly overtaken by quite a few drivers there. He's going to see quite a heckle of cars coming in there and doing well to avoid any chaos there. Those Red Bull and the Ferrari do get awfully close, though. You're going to see Josh SR5 losing out positions. Jones making up massively on the starts there. El Majaco gaining back a spot on Gronk there as well. So as these guys kind of fizzle out, it looks spread out a little bit here. And see everyone made it through turn 1, turn 2. This first bit there pretty well. I don't think we saw too much contact there. I don't think anyone had any damage coming away from that. We're going to see Lancey is still up in the lead there, but he's got A-Dub there in the McLaren right up alongside of him coming down the straight. Drops back just into the DRS zone. Cynical and Jones Drew is swapping out positions as well. We're going to see A-Dub coming up alongside Lancey here on this start straight here. Getting up right alongside. These guys are neck and neck. Who's going to be last on the brakes there? A-Dub gets it through and rotated nicely and is able to hold out that lead there. And to see El Majaco and Gronk going at it here. Just kind of swapping positions back and forth on these early stages here. Seeing some nice fun battles from these guys. Hopefully we'll be able to see Gronk making a return for our next season. See all these guys are staying pretty close to each other. A-Dub's gotten himself fastest lap at the moment and about 0.8 of a second gap there on the leader. See Meeb there following them, not too far behind them either. See Jones making a move up on Ford making it right back there. And to see Jacko goes a little bit wide there and has to yield that position there to Forward. Got Jones just sitting a little bit back there behind them. El Majaco just kind of pacing himself, burning off just a touch of his ERS every once in a while. You guys don't really want to be burning off too much here. He's got Meeb getting real close to Lancey there. You guys are saying you want to kind of meter your ERS deployment as you won't be able to gain too much back per lap. And it can be very crucial coming into these later stages of the race here as well. We see Lancey currently holding himself in P2 spot, just keeping A-Dub within that DRS window. DRS is going to be open up here in a couple laps, so then we'll start seeing maybe a little bit of shifting as the DRS train is going to start to appear from that as well. And then we're going to see Gabri there in 14th position with a little bit of spin there in sector 3. A-Dub with the fastest lap with a 139.0. Jones is able to make a move up on Jacko as Jones is into the pit, excuse me. See Jones there having a little bit of wing damage there, causing him to pit. He's going to be going on to the medium tire there. So we'll see what that's going to do for his races. He's going to be on a little bit different of a pit strategy now. So we're on to lap 3 here, and surprisingly we haven't had any major incidents or anything yet. So that's what we love to see here in these races, just let these drivers get out and race. Yeah, Meeb here, just about 2/10 back on Lancey at the moment. See if he's able to make anything happen. Gets right up on his gearbox and able to hold that through that whole corner. So very brave and committed from him. And to see them coming, as you see that here, that DRS flap open, he's going to be burning. He's ERS trying to get a move happen here. Pulls up alongside and is far ahead before the braking zone. So brilliant move there from Meeb to see him up into the number 2 slot. At the moment, A-Dub on those soft tires is going to be hurting a little bit sooner than these other guys, though, as those tires aren't going to be making it nearly as long as the mediums will. So we'll see a little bit of a shifting around of the order there. Forward, if he's able to stay up into this top 5 drivers, he should be able to see himself potentially running into the podium spots towards the middle stages of this race, which could work wonders for his strategy as well. You see Lancey now with the DRS to burn to play with there on this front straight. Not able to really make too much of a gap close on Meeb there, but if he's able to ride it through this sector, Meeb just have a couple corners, he gets a little bit better, he's going to see himself in a nice spot to overtake on that same spot where we saw Meeb take Lancey last lap. You see quite a bit of a gap, 3.8 second gap between these top 3 runners and the next few drivers behind them. Meeb is trying to challenge there for that lead at the moment, and that's promoting him to keep a nice gap to Lancey, who's just fallen out with about a second there, as Meeb is going to be able to make the overtake stick on this back straight, as you saw from the onboard with Lancey there. A-Dub going to be fighting this one back as best he can through this sector, I would imagine. And these guys fighting a little bit has allowed Lancey to close down that gap within a second again, crucially keeping him in the fight as well with that DRS train. At this stage, if you fall away just a little bit, it can be really hard to get back into that DRS train, and without DRS you will quickly fall off the pace of the leaders, and can see you go from having a potential win or potential podium to dropping down to somewhere in the midfield. A-Dub gets a little bit squirrely there, but Meeb with the fastest lap of 138.6 is able to get himself 0.8 of a second already. I see DeGabry there with another spin as Jones was going through there. Not sure if they made contact or if that spin was just all on DeGabry. That was just on his own there. Not sure about that one, but Lancey's just a couple of tenths back behind A-Dub here right on board. He's got about 0.4 half second now. A-Dub's fallen out to about 1.2 seconds crucially before the DRS zone. You're going to see DeGabry with another spin back there. So A-Dub might not be getting the DRS on this straight here, which would allow Lancey a much needed advantage to gain. As you can see, A-Dub doesn't have that DRS, and Lancey's able to just slide up alongside of him there and make that move happen. You can see these front 3 runners are coming up pretty closely now to the back of DeGabry there. He's coming into the final corner. So we'll see if that traffic's going to be coming into play for us. We got forward is still pretty close to Gronk there. As we're going to see Cynical and Josh S5, Baba Yaga, and Cynical all getting into a little bit of a scrap here. Cynical kind of initiated that, and then Baba Yaga saw an opportunity to pounce as well on the Ferrari and was able to make that move happen. Now we got Baba Yaga riding in pretty closely here, and I race with both of these drivers here in D3 quite often. They are very skilled at the wheel, very good, clean races as well, and they will push you harder than you would like them to during races as well. See Villeneuve is in the AlphaTauri there, just watching these three kind of riding out there and ahead of him, see what he's able to do there. As you got Jones there on those medium tires, not able to really close down gaps too much, but we'll see what he's able to do. As you've got Forward and Gronk still battling it out pretty heavily here. You see Gannett to win it, dropping down a position there. That's promoting Cynical up a spot as well. Had a bit of a yellow flag, so we might have seen him go wide off the track there. Right on board with Jacko, currently sitting P6 with this, watching this battle between Ford and Gronk fighting up ahead of him. It's allowed him to stay up nice and close and see if Elma Jacko's able to make a move happen. These guys, Ford not wanting to give up his spot too early. He's going to push over. You see that flashing red light, meaning he is going to be harvesting his ERS a little bit. You see he is able to make that move happen though, up into P4 at the moment, so brilliant stuff from him there. Gronk is able to move up ahead of Jacko, but Jacko fighting it back on the inside now. He's able to regain that position once again, and Gronk going to be on those softer tires, isn't going to be able to last as long in this race as those guys are on the hards. It's going to be about 10, 11 laps on those soft tires, and it's all before you're going to have to be coming into the pits. See a move there as Cynical and Baba Yaga. Cynical coming into the pits now. Not sure if he had any wing damage. What? Because he's only on those 6th lap old tires. He must have a bit of wing damage. Coming in the pits, we'll see what he's coming in for. Yes, it is coming in for a new front wing and a set of medium tires there. So it's going to be changing his race a little bit there, but back on board with Lancey there, staying within that second gap about with Meeb up ahead there. Scott's that DRS slot wide open, and riding along in this DRS train, you're going to see A-Dub doesn't have that DRS, falls back about half a second there on this lap. I'm going to see a yellow flag. It's going to be a Villeneuve there in the AlphaTauri. Had a bit of a spin there. See Ford currently just riding right behind Jacko there. Nice and close to him there. See if he's able to make anything happen over these next couple laps. We're on lap 7 now and 56, about an eighth of the way there. For any of you guys who don't know math, that's fractions. That's about all I got for you, so don't ask me to do anything else. Meeb there is just about half a second ahead of Lancey. Lancey's been fighting back pretty well on this lap. See Ford's fallen back just a good bit on that straightaway there. Jacko's starting to maybe pull away from him there, demonstrating a little bit more pace. Ford is going to have to be managing his ERS a lot better throughout the remainder of this race, so we've got a long ways to go there. But some of these soft guys are going to be coming towards the end of their pit strategies, as Cynical gets a track violation penalty there, 3 seconds added to his race time. Currently down in P13 at the moment. Won't see that really affecting him too much in this race at the moment, but maybe in the later stages, once some of these other guys pit, we'll see how that will be affecting his race. So Ford staying nice and close there with Jacko. Gronk not too far behind him. See that DNF there from DeGabry in the pits there. It's an unfortunate end to his race early on. He's only on lap 9 here. See Cynical running down in 13th at the moment, our first penalty. See yellow flags across the whole track there. That is going to be a safety car. I see Cynical with an unfortunate DNF there in that sector 3. So I wasn't riding on board there, didn't see what happened. But we'll have to see if we can get an explanation of that one there. So that is unfortunate to see from Cynical there. See him drop down to the back of the field. And see how this safety car affects everyone's pit strategies as well. These soft tire runners are going to be pretty thankful for when this safety car came out, as when they're going to be getting towards the end of their tire life. So they're going to be needing to pit, and I imagine we won't see much change from these front guys yet. We're going to see A-Dub coming into the pits, but those medium and hard runners are going to be just running those tires out quite a bit longer. You see A-Dub coming into the pits. What kind of tire he's going for? He's going for the mediums himself. And see the Gronk also there into the pits now as well. See what kind of tire he's going to go for. He's going for the hard, so just seeing a little bit of a different strategy here. Seeing quite a few cars in the pits now, getting to win it on those mediums as well. Josh SR5 and coming into the pits now in that Ferrari, going for the medium tires there. So Jones as well coming into the pits. He's only on 7 lap old medium, so I'm curious to see his reasoning for coming into the pits. Just wanting to grab some fresh rubber, maybe just get onto the same strategy as some of these other runners here. As Gronk has got himself a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings there. We're down to just 12 racers now here in the final little bit. On lap 10 of 56 here, so it's a little over a sixth of the way there now. So race is kind of just getting started. Some of these guys just pit for fresh rubber. They're going to have about 9-10 lap fresher tires. See how that's able to play. Probably won't be seeing the effects of that yet. We probably next 10 laps or so we'll see that come into strategy, as these medium tires were recommended for about 15-16 laps there. So imagine the hards, we'll see those go about 20-25 laps perhaps, just about closer to halfway for this Grand Prix. See, most of the field now has got themselves back to being bunched up there. Just got the last Alpine and Jones there on those hard tires, catching up right about now. I imagine that this would be the last lap for the safety car. We usually see it go around 2 or 3 times, especially once the field's back up. It'll We'll know that as we're coming into the start of Sector 3, though, for sure. So looking at the penalties across the board, Gronk is going to be the only one rocking one of those with a 3-second penalty for track violations. As there we see the safety car is going to be coming in this lap, so it's going to be up to me to lead these guys across the line, and he's going to be having the final say. And when we go to green flag racing, he can pull away at any moment before we cross the start line. You know, kind of want to time that to when you're going to be just a little bit ahead on a corner or something like that from the guys behind you, maybe, and just be able to get that extra little jump on the track is very crucial for these restarts, and everyone's going to be wanting to make sure they got their tires nice and warm for all of this. So we got a pretty solid mix up across the grid of older tires and newer tires. The top 4 drivers all on the same lap. Old tires splitting that between the mediums up front and the hards falling back in 3rd and 4th. So we'll see what kind of pace differentials we'll have. As you see there, Meeb is going to be pulling off right away now, making this his attempt at getting these guys back going, see how this plays off for him. Got himself a bit of an advantage there over Lancey. It looks like got about half a second gap to work with right now, so that worked pretty well for me there. Jacko's about 7/8 back on Lancey there, and Forward just outside a half second back. A-Dub there in the McLaren is staying pretty close though with Forward. He's going to be wanting to battle with these top 5 as much as he can. We're going to see A-Dub as one of our faster drivers. We're going to see a spin there from Villeneuve. That's going to promote him down to the back of the field. Unfortunate restart for him there. But these top 5 drivers are able to run a lot closer to each other now. Tin Man is in the Red Bull there in P6, is just falling back a little bit from those guys. This is where we're going to see the lower half of the midfield. But A-Dub making a move up along the inside of Forward there just before the hairpin, and it looks like he's able to make it work there. Forward's going to be fighting this one back though. You can bet your booty on that one there. Coming down this straight here, he goes for the dummy move, gets him to fake over. Some brilliant stuff from A-Dub there. A-Dub quickly closes that door back off though, and Forward's going to have to slide back into P5 for the moment. See what he's able to do coming up onto these next few straights, as we're going to see A-Dub is going to want to get as close to Jacko as he can, maybe put a little bit of distance between him and Forward there in that of that driver of that Ferrari. See, Meeb's got himself a 2.1 second gap already over Lancey there in front. This is what I was mentioning earlier in qualifying as well, when Meeb kind of has pretty dominant race pace, so as soon as he has an advantage to get in the front and push that, he can take off and really be as good as gone if we don't have a safety car to reel him back in. So Lancey's going to be doing everything he can to try to mitigate and just stay up and kind of keep that gap from expanding too much, and see if he can maybe get another penalty out of him like you saw that he had in the sprint race. Definitely changed the top order a little bit, but Jacko's able to stay within that second gap of Lancier, which is crucial for his battle with A-Dub. You see Ford here is just falling a little bit back now, just outside of his second. Not sure he was able to pick up that DRS this time around. It's not looking like he's going to have it. You can see he does not have the DRS there. The Tin Man is just about a second and a half back on him. And he's got the Gronk for company, followed quickly by Ginnett to win it there in the other McLaren. See there, Meeb's got himself almost up to a 3-second gap as he gets himself his first penalty of this race. So Lancey's going to be wanting to push his advantage now. See, he's not yet outside of that 3-second gap, but he's going to want to stay as close as he can there, as Jacko's going to be falling back just a little bit, and that's going to be a spin there. It's going to be Josh SR5 that we see go around there. So unfortunate spin from him there. It can drop him to the back of the field, and he's going to have Villeneuve coming up pretty shortly there behind him, closing down rapidly. So those two will probably be battling it out for a little bit until they separate out and go their own pace. So now Elma Jacko is about 1.5 seconds back on Lancey there, but A-Dub is able to stay pretty close there to Elma Jacko at the moment. And Forward is bouncing in and outside of that second range there, wanting to stay within that as much as he can to get that DRS and be able to ride out with these guys and to the next stages of the race. And be very important for him if he's fighting for that podium to be able to work those hard tires and be able to stay consistent with everyone up front. See there, getting it to win it, excuse me, was able to make a move on Gronk there, then McLaren getting ahead of the Alpine though for 7th position there. Get it to win it is right up on the tail there of Tin Man Rowdy, so see what he's able to do here, if he's able to get past and make something happen. See, the Gronk actually is able to get a better exit out of that corner, slips up on the inside there of getting it to win it there, and that is not what he'd like to see. And then we're going to see Gronk come across and push Tin Man the Rowdy all the way off the track there. He does well to avoid a collision there, but a little bit of dirty driving from the Gronk there. Might have just gone a little bit wide or something there, but allowed him to get up ahead. Steve Jones there get himself a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Ginnett has got himself a pretty good exit there. See if he's able to make something happen up into the inside of this corner. Looks like he wants to, but doesn't end up. Goes a little bit, pushes Tin Man a little bit deep, but wasn't able to capitalize on it too much. Tin Man was able to get out there, but you can see Ginnett to win it here with the DRS is going to be able to slide up ahead of him there. It's going to have the Gronk just about a second and a tenth ahead there. As Tin Man's not quite done with this move though. He's fighting this one back. Is it coming down? Still kind of battling it out side by side almost, as Tin Man's going to eventually have to yield a bit more. Forward there, staying just in outside of that second gap with Jacko, so not really able to use the DRS it seeming like, but able to keep that gap consistent is what he's looking to need to do there, as we're on lap 16 of 56, as we're going to see Gronk go quite a bit wide there on those hard tires. Sometimes if you just have a little bit too much speed, it's better to try to just go a little wide there, and as long as you're not going too fast on the entry, you won't get a penalty usually. Ginnett to win it there has left this session, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Be having a little bit of internet troubles there, but we'll see. That's gonna, hopefully he's able to get that figured out relatively quickly. So Meeb there out in front has just got himself about 2.7 gap. Lancey has been able to stay consistent there, so if Meeb isn't able to pull out this gap by a good bit, then that would mean Lancey would be the de facto winner of this race with that penalty if things were to finish as they are right now. But as I'm saying that, see him building out that gap just a little bit more. And there he's done it, and A-Dub has got himself quite a bit closer onto Lancey there. Lancey might have been having a couple of rough corners there. See what that's going to do for his race, as A-Dub is going to be coming up hot on his heels, and that's not what Lancey's going to be wanting to have to really mitigate right now, as he's going to be chasing down this leader. He doesn't want to have to worry about having to protect every corner, because that is going to be costing him a good bit of time. And that is all just allowing Elma Jacko to kind of sit back there and watch those two up there ahead and kind of bide his time, work on maybe saving up some of his ERS and formulate a strategy for maybe this phase of his tires, or maybe for the later stages after his pit stop, on how he's going to attack the front few drivers. Ford just behind him there, and the other Ferrari staying pretty close and consistent just outside that DRS again. Got Tin Man making contact there with Ginnett to win it, so that is unfortunate there. I'm not sure exactly what that happened, but looked like Tin Man came across on Ginnett or something there, and I'm going to imagine that's going to be some damage there for Ginnett to win it, as well as for the body of Tin Man's Red Bull there. So we'll see who's coming into the pits there. Curious to hear about what all went down there. So now we're going to see A-Dub, though, has gotten himself nice and close up onto the back of Lancy. Not really able to make anything happen here. Puts a lot of pressure on him there in front, but doesn't overcommit himself to the corner. See, Ford has got himself back within a second there of Elma Jacko. See, A-Dub there with that DRS isn't able to make too much gains there coming up the top of that hill. Coming through this sector 1 to see if he's able to close down that gap at all coming through some of these corners. At this point in the race, we're seeing a lot of these battles have kind of been neutralized as these guys have flipped into their more efficient battery saving modes, kind of saving up their ERS, mitigating tires and fuel as well, as they're just focusing on setting consistent times to try to pace themselves and get themselves into their windows they're going to want for having gaps behind with traffic and their pit strategies and where these guys up in the front are going to be at. But A-Dub there, as he's got 8 lap-old tires compared to Lancy's 17, that's going to be giving him this advantage. That's why he's able to follow a lot closer there. He's going to have a bit more grip than Lancy is, but Lancy's able to do just enough to keep him at bay. Coming on to lap 19 out of 56 now. Hear that DRS opening up for A-Dub once again. Let's see, yet again, not able to really do too much here. Closes in by about a tenth or so coming up to the top of the hill if he's able to get a nice rotation there and kind of stick with that gap there. It kind of falls away just a hair from him, though, as Lancy is doing a very good job of managing both Meeb in front of him, who's been putting on a pretty good impressive feat there of just pulling away there, and A-Dub behind has been making him work for every bit of this track that he's got to himself. See, Meeb now got that gap to about 4.1 seconds there, and Meeb on that 3-second time penalty as well for the moment. So he's going to need to maintain that gap if he's going to want to have a chance at winning this race here this evening. Going to see Gronk and Jones-Drew also have 3-second time penalties to their name, but those aren't going to be changed around their positions too much as Josh SR5 makes a move on to Tin Man the Rowdy. Let's see, Tin Man had a little bit of contact there, getting it to win it, so he might have been suffering a little bit of body damage there. But Josh SR5 having the fresher tires as well definitely would help in that battle. See A-Dub there bouncing off the rev limiters. He's taking those corners as quickly as he can. Doing a pretty good job staying in that slipstream, not suffering too much dirty air, downforce negative effects there from the car in front. So see what he's got here coming down the straight, if he's going to be able to make a move happen on this lap. Get it to win it in the other McLaren there, getting up right alongside the Alpine there of Jones Drew, getting ahead for the moment. See if he's able to hold that coming through this corner. He looks like he takes a little bit of more curb than he'd want, but he's able to hold himself out. He gets himself about half a second between Jones there on those harder tires. It's going to be a little bit slower through these corners. Josh SR5 is just bouncing around that second gap as well there, fighting to stay within DRS of that Red Bull of Baba Yaga. In front of him, he's put himself with about 2.5 second gap to Tin Man the Rowdy behind in the other Red Bull. A-Dub hasn't been able to close down that gap. It's been sitting right at about half a second, 0.4 of a second in the past 3 or 4 laps here. So he's able to close down on this back straight here, but then he's not able to carry that momentum with him into any other part of the track there. As you can see, just kind of Lancey ahead is just able to pull out a little bit, but Lancey has a bit of a mistake there, and that's going to allow A-Dub there. That constant pressure is exactly what you need to be putting on as a driver there. You can see it firsthand how that works. Lancey makes his slightest mistake, and A-Dub was right there to capitalize on that. So quick thinking from A-Dub there, and good effort from him to stay with him for as long as he has been able to make that move happen. You're going to see Lancey is just about 6/10 back though. See if he's able to fight this one back. Gronk is going to get himself another penalty there. Pull up the grand total of penalties there. As you can see, Gronk's got up to 6 seconds, everyone else sitting on 3 seconds there as well. See a couple of stops for some of these guys, some have yet to make their first stops. See Lancey not able to make too much inroads there with the DRS on that back straight, as A-Dub is able to hold that gap and even close down a little bit onto Meeb up ahead of him. So if he can continue fighting that back and get that gap down to about 3 seconds, and he would be able to see himself take over the lead if things stay as they are. See Josh SR5 making a move on Baba Yaga there. Baba Yaga in the Red Bull with 21 lap old hard tires compared to Josh SR5's 12 lap old mediums. It's definitely going to have the pace advantage in the Ferrari side there, and that's why he came out on top in that certain endeavor. So we'll see if Josh SR5 is able to put in a good gap there, and he's got about 12 and a half, 13 seconds to the driver in front of him, so we'll see if he's able to close that down. See Forward here, and Jacko's still battling it out. Forward has been able to close down that gap by about half a second now, got himself back into that DRS window. So good effort from him. And Elma Jacko has been riding pretty consistently in P4, about 6 seconds back from the top 3 runners. So these guys are all going to be on pretty similar pit strategies. Jacko and Ford are going to have the advantage though of that harder tire. They should be able to stretch those out just a little bit more than those front runners will be able to. But A-Dub on those fresher tires, and even Lancey, he may be able to run just a little bit of a different strategy, see how much farther into the race he's able to take those medium tires, maybe hope for another safety car or something like that to kind of allow him to get a free pit stop in there somewhere. We're going to see Lancey going to be coming into the pits. He's going to be one of the first of our top runners. And we'll see what kind of tire he puts on there, as these guys are going to be coming up to crossing, passing him now. I'm going to start finish straight. We're going to see Lancey go for the soft tires. It's only going to get him about 10-12 laps out of those. So maybe we'll see him go for something like another medium. So, those will go about 20 laps, or maybe even a set of hards. Because all drivers are required to use at least 2 different compounds of the tires. So you got a soft, medium, and hard to use. So you got to use 2 of each of those. And these guys are going to be wanting to stretch these tires as much as they can, especially those who started out in the top 3 or 4 spots, and those are on the 23 lap old tires are going to be starting to hurt just a little bit now. The mediums more so than the hards will be, but I don't imagine it'll be too much longer before we see those hard drivers coming into the pits to swap out those tires for probably medium and maybe even a set of softs like we see Lancey going here with. Lancey coming out on track though in P7 at the moment. He's got about a 2.5 second gap on the Gronk and Guinnett up ahead of him. They've been battling it out just a little bit here. Gonna see Gronk have a bit of a moment there. It's good to save his car there, and that's just allowed Lancey to close down that gap a lot faster than you would have assumed he'd be able to before. But the Gronk has got that gap with Guinnett hovering right around his second, so maybe he's going to be able to pull something out. We'll have to ride on board with these guys and see what they can pull off. See Lancey there slide up the inside there on Gronk. Both of them end up going a little bit wide, but Lancey's able to stick it onto the track and keep that position there. He's on those 1 lap old softs compared to 15 lap old medium, or XSP hards. Not much of a contest there on who's going to have the better traction. A-Dub has worked wonders though against Mead, able to bring that gap down to 3.2 seconds now, so impressive there. It was about 4.1 just a couple of laps back, so impressive from him. We're going to see Tin Man the Rowdy coming in. He's pitting for a set of soft tires as well. He's going to be coming out onto track in last position there, P12 at the moment. But with some of these drivers in front of him definitely going to be having a pit as well. We got 5-6 drivers who have yet to pit. So we'll see what kind of stretch they're going to be pulling out. I imagine we're going to see a couple more people hop onto those soft compound tires and run those for a little bit. We see Meeb is coming into the pits now. He's going to be all on his lonesome, as A-Dub is going to be running on through. A-Dub on 16 lap old tires compared to Meeb's 24, and Meeb's going straight to the hard tire. Maybe wanting to make this a one-stop race. He's going to have to put in about 30 laps on those tires, so just a couple more than he put on the medium. Should definitely be doable. We'll see what he's able to pull out in the end there. So Lancey is going to set the 137.9 as the new fastest lap of the race. So you see Elma, Jacko, and Ford move up into those podium spots as well. For the moment, they are going to have to be pitting here pretty shortly on those harder tires. And they may be trying to just work their tires until they can do the opposite of what Meeb has gone for. Maybe instead of going from medium to hard, they're going to be going hard medium there for the end of the race, I would imagine, at this point. Unless maybe they think they're going to be a safety car in the later stages, that would probably pull quite a few of these drivers in onto a new strategy from there. See Lancey making a move there on getting it to win it as well. So those soft tires are working pretty well for him at this stage in the race. He's going to have a lot more pace than these guys around him. And as the track started rubbering up a good bit at this phase as well, he's going to be flying pretty well on those tires. A yellow flag there in sector 3, and that is going to be a McLaren there of getting it to win it. We saw it. Not sure what happened there. He just might have had a little bit of a moment there as we see him drop down a position, but keep him moving forward. So good to see he's still got that going for him. Gronk's got himself another time penalty there for 3-second violation there, so that's not what he'd like to see. He's got Ginnett closing in on him there. Ginnett's using that DRS and getting up nice and close there. And send it on the inside here into the braking zone. Should be a pretty clean cut move there to make. It looks like he does that well and is able to hold that position. Lancey sets a new fastest lap with 137.784 for the Williams. So he's been a solid driver there in the Williams campus. He's the only one pilot in that car there. You see a couple of these teams are going to be one-man armies for Meeb as well. He's the only one fighting out in that Mercedes. But he's been doing great. Williams is leading the constructors standings by about 20 points over Mercedes there. But with how things have been going, you know, everything's up in the air. Points-wise right now, it could swing either way for these drivers, especially in these championship standings. All it takes is one bad weekend and it could drastically change the championship. But we're on round 7 of 8, so after this we're gonna have one more shot for shots at this title here, see if Jacko's able to pull something off and make it a back-to-back win, or if we're gonna see Meeb or perhaps even Lancey crowned as our new champion. See a yellow flag there in sector 2. Not sure what that was there about. Might have seen a He might have had a bit of a moment there, I think is what that was. But looks like he's going again. He's got that figured out. We're on to lap 29 now of 56, so just a little over the halfway point. You see these drivers are making their way. Some of these guys on the hard tires still have yet to pit. On that 28 lap old tires is not something you'd probably be having too much fun with around here, but if it's going to be helping their strategies out towards the end of this race, I'm sure they're going to want to push it as far as they can. See forward there, closing in a little bit faster on Jacko now, getting to win it. Scott himself a 3-second penalty for track violations. As we can see, Baba Yaga and Villeneuve both coming into the pits now. Baba Yaga going for the medium tire there. We'll see what Villeneuve goes as we got Ford making a little bit of coming up alongside Elma Jacko and makes contact there with his front wheel, and he's not going to be able to make anything of that there, but then they come back fighting side by side there. Elma Jacko goes a bit deep as Ford cuts to the inside there. We'll see what Ford's able to do, if he's able to stick it up the inside here. No, he's not. Jacko does a nice job covering that off, and that's going to be a spin there for him forward. He's able to keep from going all the way around though, and just kind of gets sideways there on track and only loses out a position in the process, a couple positions there in the process. But that is going to be a massive bit back further on track, so that is unfortunate for his battle there with the podiums, fighting up against Elma Jacko there. He's on, looking like he's on for a pretty good result there. It's just going to be him coming into the pits now, not wanting to take those tires any further. 28 laps on them was quite far enough, and he should be able to comfortably run those mediums, as we saw those going about 28 laps from a couple drivers. So he shouldn't have to pit anymore for this race. See him coming out into the 8th spot there, just ahead of his teammate. He's at the other end of the start-finish straight. You see penalties there for 4 of our drivers there. We'll go ahead and take a look at how many seconds these guys are going to be on. Gronk is on 9 seconds, everyone else on 3 still. Gronk hasn't been having the best nights with those track limits there. You see Lancey up real close, coming up alongside Jacko now. Able to seemingly make that move happen there on the straight far before the braking zone, so we'll see if he's able to hold it here coming into this corner. It looks like he is, so nice move from Lancey there to promote himself up into P2 at the moment. Remember, those tires are only going to have about 10-11 laps worth of life in them, so he is going to have to be pitting for those mediums or hards here pretty shortly. See Tin Man Rowdy and Baba Yaga swapping positions a little bit there in the Red Bull side of things. Got Villeneuve about 6 seconds back on them as well. See Tin Man and Baba Yaga swapping positions yet again. See, Elma Jacko has just fallen a little bit outside of that pace of Lancey there. Lancey on those softer tires, so yeah, we naturally would have seen him gain out a little bit when Jacko's tires are also 30 laps old. So impressive feat from him to keep those running as well. He's going to have a pretty nice solid advantage here towards the end of the race once everyone else's tires are going to be up a little bit higher in age. He should have some of the fresher tires on the field. We're going to see A-Dub on 22 laps and Ginnett to win it. Gronk and Jones as well up in there. Josh is for 5 as well. Ford set a new fast lap of 137.6 there. It's 2-lap old medium tires there, so still got a lot of pace to show for it. Villeneuve's going to get himself a 3-second penalty for track violations now as well in the AlphaTauri, currently down in around 12th place. See, Meeb is just now coming into about 2.5 seconds behind Elma Jacko there. His Ford's going to make a move up on Jones there. Forward on those fresher tires. Tin Man and Rowdy swapping spots yet again. But Ford on those fresher tires over Jones is going to have that advantage. Jones having that 3-second penalty to play with. Maybe doesn't want to fight too much at this stage of the race and just wants to be able to focus on hammering away pace and consistent laps. The soft tire runners are going to be nearing the end of their runs on those. That'll be Tin Man, the Rowdy, and Lancey are currently using the softs. We saw a couple drivers using the softs, and they were able to get about 10-11 laps out of them before we saw them coming into the pits during a safety car. Not sure if they can go for so much farther than that or what, but that's just what we saw there. So I'm going to assume they're about 10-11 laps on those tires. We're on to lap 33 of 56 now. These 12 drivers remaining have all been doing a phenomenal job there. He's had a retirement from DeGabry there, and then an unfortunate DNF from Cynical. But other than that, we've seen pretty much mostly clean racing as well. Only a couple of times where we saw a little bit of contact between a Red Bull, I believe it was, and a McLaren. But other than that, these guys have been pretty respectful, and most of these guys have been driving against each other long enough to know how each other are going to drive at this point and where they can push the envelope a little bit and where they can't. We're going to see a yellow flag in Sector 1, though, because we're going to see a spin from Villeneuve there in the AlphaTauri. You see Meeb has now closed up quite a bit now onto the back of Jacko, having those much fresher tires. Jacko's been able to stretch those tires 37 laps. You can see he's got a good bit of blistering going on there on the right side of his tires. So I imagine we're going to be seeing Meeb attempting to make a move happen here. He's not able to close down super far. He's not got the most reserve in his tank to work with, but he's coming into the braking zone, comes up alongside of him, and is able to hit to the inside there. So Jacko sticks it wide on the outside there to keep himself on the inside for this next corner. We'll see how that works out for him as Meeb is able to get a little bit more traction around the outside and just roll through this corner just a little bit faster. Then that's going to be a spin from the the Ferrari of Josh SR5 there. So he's able to keep going back on track again though, and he's got a good bit of distance between the traffic of the Red Bulls behind him. I see Meeb starting to pull out a little bit now. Jacko on those tires isn't going to have much pace to be competitive anymore at this point. So we may see him trying to run those tires. I don't know that we'd see him try to run them to a soft at the end of this race, because that may be demanding a little bit much out of those tires. But we're going to see A-Dub there with a spin. That is unfortunate for him. We're going to see him coming back out onto the track and sitting at P2 at the moment. Goes a bit wide there, so that's going to allow Meeb and Elma Jacko through. So A-Dub was leading this race, and he's on 25 lap old mediums, so he's going to have a little bit to work against, and Meeb is in the best spot currently in this top 4 or 5 drivers. His tires are 9 laps old on those hard tires. He shouldn't have to pit again for the end of the race. Meanwhile, Lancey's going to be nearing the end of his life and going to have to pit. Elma Jacko's on 34 laps on those tires. He should definitely be pitting here soon. And A-Dub 25 laps on a set of mediums. I don't imagine they're going to have too much more pace to offer for many more laps before those tires are going to be just slowing you down. You see Ford getting a move done on Gronk there. See Lancey and has gotten himself time penalties now to work with as well. You can see Gronk's up to 9 seconds, and then Villeneuve, Jones, Ginnett, Meeb, and Lancey all on 3 seconds worth of penalties. A-Dub is able to stay within that DRS zone. We'll see what he's able to do on this stretch here, if he's going to be burning off some of that ERS trying to close down that gap, or if he's just going to be mitigating to try to hold off and see what kind of a strategy Elma Jacko's going to go for here. Looks like he's not able to close down that gap too quickly, so maybe just buying his time, thinking through his options on when we're going to see Jacko pit in here. It's been 35 laps, so we've got 20 laps remaining in this race. I imagine we're going to see him running to the medium compounds. We're going to see A-Dub and Ginnett both on 26 lap old tires as well, so maybe if they see Jacko dive into the pits, they're going to do the same. See Lancey there up in the lead is able to put in 13 laps on that set of soft tire compound. Got himself a 3.3 second gap to work with as well. See A-Dub get himself a 3-second time penalty. So quite a few penalties coming across the board now, starting to influence each other's races, as Elma Jacko's the only driver in the top 5 without a penalty. Ford having no penalties either. But the 6 other drivers in the top 8 all have penalties as well. Gronk is going to have the brute of that. He's got himself up over 9 seconds worth of penalties, so unfortunate for him. But we could see these penalties starting to become a massive change to the how this race is played out. Get it to win it is going to come into the pits now for the McLaren team. He's on 28 laps on that set of mediums, so going to be retiring those, and he might be thinking about trying to stretch those softs. As we see, Lancey's able to put in 14 laps there and hasn't lost too much time to me behind on those hard tires. Me, we know, is a fast driver and able to keep consistent with older tires. Older soft tires is going to be impressive there. It's going to see Ginnett go on to those soft tires, and it's going to see him coming out into P7. So just lost a couple spots there. And we see A-Dub and Gronk are on 28 laps on their tires as well. So I imagine they might be thinking about going to that same kind of strategy here. Gronk has got himself another time penalty. Meeb has now got that gap down to about 1.2 seconds there from the leader. You may be seeing things shifting around here as Villeneuve gets ahead of Tin Man the Rowdy as Tin Man is coming into the pits. He's onto the soft tires, so we'll see what kind of pace he's got for us there on those. El Majaco's making his move into the pits now. It's going to promote A-Dub up into the podium spots. So we'll see what kind of tire El Majaco is going to be going for. He goes for the mediums, and he's got a fresh set of mediums to work with, maybe not thinking that those soft tires are really going to realistically be able to make it to the end there. Forward is going to be sliding up into that number 4 spot through this, as El Majaco wasn't able to clear the pits before he did. See, Mead now is within that DRS zone as well, so we'll see if he's able to make anything happen on this straight, or if he's just gonna take him a couple laps to kind of chip away at me, or excuse me, at Lancey there. See what he's able to do. But coming towards down to the back end of this straightaway, he's got a lot of straight speed to work with there, as Mead is gonna slide up the inside there of Lancey. And all these guys are going to have penalties to work with, so these guys are basically just racing for pure position now at this point. They both have 3-second time penalties to kind of negate each other. So getting it to win it there on the back of El Majaco there. El Majaco going to be on those fresh tires, going to have coming down a little bit colder on the out of the pits there, and getting to win it on those soft tires has got them nice and fired up at this point. It's set the fastest sector 2 time as well, just to top things off. See, getting it to win it there with the 136.9 is going to be the new fastest lap. See, Guinness getting up a lot closer on those lap. He's got those soft tires to work with. He's going to be coming up right alongside El Majaco this time, and he's going to be slamming on the brakes just a little bit late if he can. But Jacko's actually going to stick it up to the inside this time. And that's going to promote him to the outside of this corner here, maybe thinking he can get some sort of switch back there. But getting it to win it is going to be able to stay in head for the moment. But Jacko's coming back at him at this lap, this corner here, excuse me. coming up onto this long sweeping right. You see if they're able to hold their lines through here. Doesn't look like either of them are suffering from grip loss at all. Getting to win it with 136.8. There's the new fastest lap as well. Gonna see a yellow flag there in sector 2, and that is gonna be forward there. He's had a spin, so that's unfortunate for him there. He's got the car moving in the right direction though. He's gonna have a couple guys coming up shortly behind him there. Still running in the top 5, but that's unfortunate to see him down off of the podium there. We see El Majaco there just behind, getting it to win it up ahead of him there. You can see that flashing red light there on the back of that McLaren. See, Lancey now has got himself a brand new set of soft tires to work with as well, and he is able to hold that position. And as long as he can keep that gap with him for the remainder of this race, he should be fine. Yeah, all those penalties, the top 3 drivers all having 3 seconds of penalties. They may as well not have penalties at all, since they will all kind of be canceling each other out. See, El Majaco's just a couple of tenths back there, but A-Dub is able to make a move up on Gronk there onto coming into the top of turn 1 there. So impressive. We haven't seen any moves pulled off very efficiently there until now. On lap 42 now of 56. So these drivers are running a little bit out of time. We're going to see Josh SR5 coming into the pits now. We'll see what he's going to be coming in for. Looking like he's just wanting to grab a fresh set of soft tires, and off he's going to be going. Smeeb's got himself up to a 17-second gap now over Lancey there, as Lancey did have to come into the pits, so that's why that gap is about as big as it is. But Smeeb has also been demonstrating extreme driving proficiency throughout this season. He's won most of our races, and he just has a lot of raw pace, and his race pace is just phenomenal to watch unfold as he just gets a good bit of track and then he just keeps going with it. You're going to see Lancey coming up on a little bit of lap traffic there of Tin Man the Rowdy, I believe. As A-Dub is going to set the fastest lap with a 135.7 in the McLaren. He's coming up pretty close to Forward now. Forward, who's previously running up for the podium before he had himself a little bit of a spin there on his older tires. Got just 13 laps here remaining in this race as well. Starting to see the sky get a little bit overcast and cloudy, so I'm not sure if we're going to see any rain coming in this final bit. It's not looking super dark like it's going to be anything imminent, but maybe towards the last few laps. But we're going to see A-Dub getting ready to make his move on Forward, and he's pulled up alongside of him now. And we can see he's got the move done there before the braking zone. this point, just about everyone has found themselves their rhythm and groove that they're going to be riding in for the remainder of this race. We can see El Majaco and just fighting off that DRS, trying to get back into that DRS, as well as forward here has been battling it a little bit with A-Dub on this lap, and he's going to be seeing a little bit more of that now. We're going to see Ginnett to win it coming into the pits there, and we're going to see a DNF from him as well. So I'm not sure what that was about there, if he made contact with the wall or if he retired. So we're seeing to see him leaving the session now as well. It's going to open up a little bit of change there for some of these drivers. So McLaren had both their drivers running up in the top there. I'm not sure what happened with Ginnett there. We'll have to get some confirmation after the race. So far we do currently see our top 3 spots filled by the top 3 drivers of the standings in their respective orders as well. Lancey's looking to have a little bit of a better weekend than Majaco. He's only got himself a 1-point advantage over him there. And then Meeb's got himself about a 20-30 point advantage over Lancey and Jacko as well. So Meeb is going to be sitting pretty comfortable, especially after this weekend. I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to really challenge him for that title. And we're going to see a pretty close battle between Lancey and Jacko as we have come into the final little bits of our season. On to lap 46 now at 56, and all these drivers have kind of split off out of their DRS zones effectively and are just kind of running out there. So let's take one last look at our penalties across the board. We're going to see a couple of high penalties there for Gronk. Got himself into the 12 seconds worth of penalties there. Everyone else is going to be sitting on about 3 seconds. So currently A-Dub would be on the borderlines of losing out a position there, but other than that I don't think we're going to be seeing too much shuffling across the board as we go into our final 10 laps of this race. So once again, we've seen a fairly dominant showing from our top 4 or 5 drivers here this evening. We got Meebs showing yet more consistency in his pure race pace to just be able to get out in front and build up a gap there. He's going to see Jones Drew get another 3-second penalty. But Meeb was able to demonstrate pure pace there out there today, and during the sprint race he had a lot of great car control, and yeah, he had that penalty and that dropped him down to a few spots there in the end. We're going to see a yellow flag in Sector 3 caused by Villeneuve there in the AlphaTauri having a little bit of a spin. We're going to be riding on board with AW is going to be coming up and passing that pretty quickly there. You can see him off to the side there. He gets out of the way nicely. But Lancey also having a dominant drive and being on the attack every chance he gets. That's allowed him to ride up in the front there with him there. And Lancey also on a 3-second penalty this race as well, so those two are not gonna be super happy about those. And then you got Elma Jacko down there in P3. He's had a pretty quiet race. He was able to stretch his tires 30 some laps there in the beginning stages, so a huge effort from him to do that, and he's able to have a lot fresher tires now, although I don't think it's necessarily paying off for him super well, as Lancey and AW around him both on those soft tires, so that's gonna pretty much be negating that. And speaking of AW, he's been pretty much running in the mix since the beginning. We had him running up in the front at the beginning of this race, and then we had a little bit of a spin, and that's seen him drop back just a little bit. But he's done well to hold up into this position and coping brilliantly with these conditions here. And Ford's had a solid race just from the beginning there. You see him get a little bit wide there. Seen a pretty strong weekend for him, always running up in the top a little bit here. He's got Gronk on those 38 lap old tires, still making them work for him somehow on that 48 to 56. So we'll see if he's able to take those all the way to the end. You got Jones there on those fresh softs, Josh SR5 and the other Ferrari on softs, and a couple mediums, and then Tin Man the Rowdy is going to be bringing up the rear on those soft tires as well. And it's a little bit of a late strategy. Some of these guys may be wanting to go for that fastest lap attempt if they could possibly get it. So you can see AW currently running with that fastest lap of the 135.7. You can see Ford coming into the pits now, looking like he might be wanting to make an attempt for that fastest lap. See that he's got Gronk there just 11 seconds behind and now passing him, but he's going to be onto a heaping amount of penalties. So as long as he can stay pretty close to him, he shouldn't have anything to really worry about. And as far as losing out of position there, if he could get that fastest lap attempt, that'd be an extra bonus point for him in his championship. You can see Forward there has been able to close down that gap he had on Gronk a bit. So like I said, he's able to close down that gap quite quickly there with those fresher tires. We're going to see him going for the fastest lap attempt here now. We're going to see a yellow flag in Sector 2, and that looks like it is going to be Jacko off on the side of the road there. So he's lost out of position there. But if he's able to keep that gap closed, he may be able to win this one back. We've got 6 laps left going in this race, so anything could go his way. So you're going to see AW on that penalty as well. We'll see Ford there getting up ahead of Gronk there, coming down that DRS straight. Not a huge surprise to see him pull off that one there. Gronk's not really going to have much to fight that back as his tires are going to be 40 laps old, so impressive feat by him to be able to run those tires for so long. See, the Gronk is now making his way into the pits, maybe not able to do anything with those tires and realizing he's not going to lose out too much. If he pits now, he's still got his teammate behind him. So it's going to be, either way would be a good result from Alpine. And I imagine he might even be able to get back out on the track. His teammate might just beat him out there. You see that Red Bull getting out of the way there of El Majaco. El Majaco has been able to keep this gap with AW nice and close, and he's able to even be closing it down there a little bit as AW's swerved just a bit there. Not sure what he had going on there, but that allowed El Majaco to get a bit closer there. So AW is now going to be feeling that pressure from Jacko quite a bit more now. We see Tinma and the Rowdy getting up ahead of Villeneuve as Villeneuve comes into the pits for a fresh set of soft tires as well. Just looking to maybe try to go for that fastest lap attempt, see what kind of pure pace he's going to have around this track at this stage. See, El Majaco's got himself up nice and close there to the back of AW, making this move happen along into the braking zone there. See the Gronk get past his teammate there. We're on to lap 53 of 56 now. The Gronk gets himself another 3-second time penalty. So you're going to see AW short shifting a bit there. Maybe seeing him running a bit out of fuel. I know these drivers like to underfuel their cars as much as they can to try to give themselves every bit of pace advantage they can find. Just 2 laps now remaining in this race here. Got me, Blancy, and Jacko going to be your top 3 at the moment. Followed by A-Dub there, who riding on board within the McLaren, and Forward sitting in the Ferrari there behind him, and then Alpines 6 and 7, and Josh Esser at 5, bringing out the 8, and then the Red Bull trio bringing out the final 10. And Villeneuve outside of that. We've had a couple of DNFs so far, unfortunately. But all these other drivers that we've got remaining here in the race have been doing a superb job of managing their cars, managing their tires, and we've only seen a handful of spins tonight from a few drivers, so nothing too crazy, and we haven't had any major contact. Didn't see anything crazy going on in turn 1 during the sprint or in the feature race, which is always wonderful to see, especially in the tricky conditions that we had in the sprint race. And if you've stuck around with us this long, I want to say thank you for tuning in and watching some racing on your Friday night. And we're going to have interviews with the top 3 or 4 drivers after this. So once the race is over, don't go anywhere. You can catch what was going on inside their heads and what they thought we had going on for themselves in these races. See, Mead goes a bit wide there and coming through that corner. His tires might be starting to suffer a good little bit into this stage of the race, which wouldn't be a huge surprise, but I don't think he got himself a warning for that one or anything. Hopefully not, because if he got a couple penalties at this stage, could change his race form. We're going to see the Alpine duo both coming into the pits, actually. Sure what kind of opportunities that's going to open up for the Ferrari there behind him, but as he's making his way through that final corner, we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how that's going to be going for him. Speaking of that Ferrari, coming around that final corner just ahead of Meeb here, who we're riding on board with. You can see him disappearing up into the distance there. So both the Alpine drivers will be able to put on some fresh soft tires there in hopes of using that to go for a fastest lap attempt now, as we are on board with Meeb here for the final lap of this race. And as I said earlier, it's been a dominant weekend from him, both through the sprint and through this feature race here, as well as the rest of the top drivers. I want to give a special shout out to Jacko and Forward running in the top 7 there. Without the only 2 drivers without penalties. Jacko in the top 3 has been driving pretty calm, consistent all weekend. He had a little bit of a tougher time during the sprint race in the wet conditions, as did everyone, but he's been able to provide us with a solid run through today's feature race here on these 56 laps. He's able to stretch his tires into a perfect window and has had consistent pace since then on those medium tires, and it seems to be paid off pretty well for him here in the end here. See, Meeb is locking up just a little bit coming into these final corners here. So he wants him to take it nice and slow here. Villeneuve gonna get a move done on Tin Man the Rowdy there, promoting himself up into the number 10 spot. You see as Beam's coming up down to the final corner. Going to be bringing it home here for yet another win in our endurance series. That's going to be me putting it on the top step of the podium once again there. So brilliant drive from him there to be able to finish with a dominant showing like that, as you're going to be seeing these next few drivers coming across the line now. And Lancey is the next driver across the line in that Williams, last week's winner. And then you're going to see Elma Jacko bringing it home in the number 3 spot after a dominant drive from him, and that's going to be the top 3 in your driver's standings as well. And behind that, we're going to be seeing A-Dub coming across the line in that McLaren. So brilliant performance from him to be able to ride in that top 5 throughout the remainder of this race. Ford bringing home the number 5 spot in that Ferrari. Another great weekend from him to be able to show a pretty solid skill and tire management throughout this. We saw him have a couple spins, so we know he has a little bit more race pace around here if he's able to get his way back up into that top 5. I think without a couple of those spins, he might have been on for a podium here tonight. We're going to see Jones, Drew, and Gronk in the Alpine are down a lap, so it's not to worry about them. We're going to see Josh SR5 and the other Ferrari, as well as the 3 that have not yet finished their laps, but Baba Yaga, Villeneuve, and Team Maserati were all laps, so we're going to see them coming to the end of their race there. As we just have another 3-second penalty for Jones there, as we're coming to the end of this race. So Jones there with the fastest lap as well on that last lap, so he's going to be yoinking that final point there. So you guys don't go anywhere. We're going to have a top 3 drivers in here for from our podium. We're going to have them in for interviews here in a moment. You can see those top drivers up on the podium there, and there's going to be your official results there. So we can see Meeb there is going to be coming out on top this weekend. He had the most points there and the win here in this session. So you got Meeb there in the Mercedes bringing home the number 1 spot, Lancey in the Williams taking that number 2, and then you got El Majacco there number 3 in that Aston Martin, followed by A-Dub in the McLaren, Forward in that Ferrari for number 5, followed by Josh SR5 in the other Ferrari there. And that's going to be Gronk and Jones in the Alpine duo, bringing up 7th and 8th. 9th is going to be a DNF from Cynical in the feature race, though. So we did see a little bit of a position changing there from the end. Yeah, these turns here aren't some of my favorites either there, Baba Yaga, so I understand what you mean there about it being a little bit more difficult at times. Yeah, this track is one of my favorite places in the world, but it's not one of my favorite tracks.